The Impossible Meeting, August 1977. A celebrity tennis tournament at the RFK Pro Celebrity Tennis Tournament, an event honoring Robert F. Kennedy, assassinated 9 years earlier. Maria Shriver, 21-year-old niece of President John F. Kennedy and journalism student, was helping organize the charity event. Arnold Schwarzenegger, 30-year-old bodybuilding champion transitioning to Hollywood, attended as one of the celebrity participants, though his celebrity status in 1977 was questionable outside bodybuilding circles. Their meeting seemed cosmically improbable. Maria represented American political royalty, the Kennedy dynasty, Democratic Party establishment, East Coast wealth and sophistication. Arnold represented immigrant ambition, Austrian bodybuilder, Republican sympathies, West Coast gym culture, and working-class European roots. Everything about their background suggested incompatibility. Yet when they met at that tennis tournament, the chemistry was immediate and undeniable. Maria was drawn to Arnold's confidence, his humor, his European charm. He wasn't like the prep school politicians and Kennedy hangers-on she'd grown up around. He was direct, ambitious, unintimidated by her family name. Arnold was drawn to Maria's intelligence, her Kennedy glamour, her potential as strategic partner. Dating a Kennedy would open doors, provide establishment credibility, position him as more than just bodybuilder. But the attraction was also genuine. Maria challenged him intellectually in ways gym partners didn't. They started dating, setting in motion a relationship that would fascinate media, horrify Kennedy loyalists, and ultimately become one of Hollywood's highest-profile marriages and most dramatic collapses. The culture clash. The Shriver-Kennedy family's reaction to Arnold was complex and initially resistant. Eunice Kennedy Shriver, Maria's mother and sister to JFK and RFK, had built her reputation on social justice advocacy and disability rights. Arnold represented a world Eunice found superficial bodybuilding, Hollywood vanity, Republican politics. The Kennedy clan was Democratic Party royalty. Arnold was a Nixon supporter who'd eventually campaigned for Republicans. The Kennedys represented East Coast intellectual establishment. Arnold represented West Coast entertainment culture. The Kennedys valued public service. Arnold valued personal achievement and wealth accumulation. Sergeant Shriver, Maria's father and 1972 Democratic vice presidential candidate, was more open-minded but skeptical. Could this Austrian bodybuilder possibly be serious about his daughter? Was this a publicity stunt? A celebrity fling that would embarrass the family? Arnold faced these doubts with characteristic strategy. He courted the family deliberately, showing interest in their political work, discussing policy with intelligence that surprised them, demonstrating he wasn't just muscle in movies. He also weaponized his immigrant story. The Kennedys valued American dream narratives. Arnold's journey from Austrian farm boy to self-made success perfectly fit that mythology. He was living proof that America remained the land of opportunity. But underlying tensions remained. At family dinners, political arguments erupted. Arnold defended Reagan while Kennedys attacked Republican policies. Arnold championed individual responsibility while Kennedys advocated government intervention. These weren't polite philosophical disagreements, they were fundamental worldview clashes. Maria found herself caught between two identities. The Kennedy daughter expected to champion liberal causes. The woman falling for a Republican bodybuilder who represented everything her family political stood against. The love story, despite the cultural clash, or perhaps because of it, Arnold and Maria's relationship deepened through the late 1970s and early 1980s. They represented a Romeo and Juliet dynamic, two people from incompatible worlds whose love defied logical compatibility. Arnold was building his Hollywood career. Conan the Barbarian in 1982 made him a legitimate movie star. Maria was building her journalism career working at CBS, establishing herself as serious reporter rather than just Kennedy dynasty member. Their relationship became increasingly public. Media loved the story. Kennedy princess dates Republican muscle man. The narrative practically wrote itself, glamorous opposites attracting, political divide bridged by romance. But privately, the relationship was more complicated. Arnold's work ethic meant constant travel, filming locations, promotional tours, bodybuilding appearances. Maria's journalism career required similar dedication and unpredictable scheduling. They were both intensely ambitious, which created mutual respect, but also competition for time and priority. Arnold's emotional availability, or lack thereof, was also an issue. He'd been raised in an emotionally distant Austrian household, trained himself for decades to suppress vulnerability in favor of competitive focus. Intimacy required skills Arnold hadn't developed. Maria, raised in an emotionally expressive Kennedy household where feelings and politics were discussed endlessly, needed connection Arnold struggled to provide. She'd push for deeper conversation. He'd deflect with jokes or shift to career discussion. Yet they remained committed. Why? The attraction was genuine. The partnership had strategic value for both careers. And perhaps most importantly, they both invested so much in defying family doubts that walking away would mean admitting those doubts were correct. The proposal: Arnold proposed to Maria in Austria, bringing her to his homeland to meet his mother Aurelia and see where he'd grown up. The proposal location was strategic, taking Maria to his origins, showing her the small-town life he'd escaped, demonstrating the distance he'd traveled. Maria said yes. But accepting the proposal meant accepting everything that came with it: marrying a Republican and Democratic dynasty, joining her life to someone whose political values contradicted her family's legacy, betting that love could overcome ideological difference. The engagement made international news. Kennedy family members publicly congratulated the couple while privately expressing concern. Could this marriage actually work long-term? Or was it doomed by fundamental incompatibility? Arnold approached the marriage strategically, as he approached everything. Maria provided establishment credibility, Kennedy glamour, intelligent partnership. She opened doors in political and media circles where bodybuilding credentials meant nothing. The marriage would elevate his positioning from action star to legitimate cultural figure. Maria's motivations were more complicated. She loved Arnold genuinely, but she was also choosing rebellion. Marrying someone her family doubted proved her independence from Kennedy expectations. Arnold represented escape from dynasty pressure, freedom to define her own identity beyond family legacy. Both were marrying partly for love, partly for strategic reasons neither fully acknowledged. The question was whether that hybrid foundation could support long-term commitment. The wedding, April 26, 1986. The wedding in Hyannis, Massachusetts Kennedy family compound was a media spectacle. Over 500 guests, including Hollywood celebrities, political figures, Kennedy dynasty members. Andy Warhol, Grace Jones, Oprah Winfrey, along with Kennedy relatives representing decades of American political power. The ceremony represented collision of Arnold and Maria's worlds. Catholic service, both were Catholic, though Arnold was less observant. Kennedy family traditions blending with Arnold's European background. Republican guests mixing with Democratic establishment. Maria wore custom-designed Christian Dior gown. Arnold wore tuxedo that barely contained his still massive physique. He retired from competitive bodybuilding, but remained larger than any normal groom. The visual alone was statement. Kennedy princess and Austrian bodybuilder, impossibility made reality. The reception showcased the cultural tensions. Kennedy relatives told political stories and discussed policy. Arnold's bodybuilding friends seemed out of place among establishment figures. Hollywood celebrities navigated between political dynasty and entertainment culture. But the wedding succeeded as spectacle proof that Arnold had arrived at level of success where Kennedy marriage was plausible, where his immigrant background became charming backstory rather than disqualifying factor. The early years, the late 1980s, represented the marriage's honeymoon period literally and figuratively. Arnold's career exploded. Predator, The Running Man, Twins. He became the world's biggest action star, commanding record-breaking salaries. Maria's career also thrived. She became respected NBC journalist, proving herself through work rather than family name. She covered serious news, interviewed major figures, established credibility independent of Kennedy dynasty. They had their first child, Catherine, in 1989, then Christina in 1991, Patrick in 1993, Christopher in 1997. The family grew, and Arnold and Maria projected successful power couple image, Hollywood glamour meeting political legacy, dual career marriage that somehow functioned despite demanding schedules. But cracks were forming beneath the surface. Arnold's emotional distance became more pronounced with children. He loved them, but struggled with presence and vulnerability. Work remained his primary identity. Fatherhood was secondary role he performed adequately, but not enthusiastically. Maria wanted traditional family life despite dual careers, dinners together, emotional conversations, prioritizing family over work. Arnold wanted success in multiple domains simultaneously: movies, business ventures, political aspirations, which meant family got whatever time remained after ambition was satisfied. The fundamental tension. Maria had married Arnold hoping to change him, expecting love would soften his edges. Arnold had married Maria expecting she'd accept him as he was ambitious, emotionally reserved, driven primarily by achievement. Neither got what they'd hoped for. Both settled into compromise that looked functional publicly while feeling insufficient privately. The political divergence, the 2000s, brought new tensions as Arnold pursued governorship. Maria, lifelong Democrat from America's most famous Democratic family, suddenly had Republican husband running for office. She faced impossible choice: support her husband or remain loyal to family political legacy. She chose Arnold, campaigning for him despite disagreeing with some positions, defending him to skeptical Kennedy relatives. But privately, the political differences created strain. Arnold's Republican governance contradicted values Maria had been raised to champion. His environmental stances were progressive for Republican, which Maria supported, but his fiscal conservatism and other positions created ideological conflicts. Kennedy family members were publicly diplomatic, but privately concerned. Ted Kennedy, Maria's uncle, maintained relationship with Arnold, but represented everything Arnold's political positioning opposed. Family gatherings became careful navigation of topics to avoid explosive arguments. Maria tried bridging the divide. She'd interview Arnold on her NBC programs, frame him as different kind of Republican, emphasize their shared values on environment and social issues. But the tension was real and growing. Arnold's governorship also meant reduced family time. Sacramento required weekday presence. Los Angeles, where family lived, Arnold commuted, which meant even less availability for Maria and children. The marriage was functioning as political and social partnership. Both benefited from the Kennedy-Schwarzenegger brand. But as emotional connection, as intimate relationship, it was gradually hollowing out. The secret throughout the marriage: Arnold maintained his relationship with Mildred Bina, the family's housekeeper, concealing from Maria that they'd had a child together, Joseph, born in 1997, just 5 days after Maria gave birth to Christopher. For over a decade, Arnold lived double life. He maintained marriage to Maria, raised 4 children publicly, projected successful family image while secretly being father to 5th child with woman who worked in their home. The psychological compartmentalization this required was extraordinary. Arnold had to interact with Joseph regularly. He lived with his mother, but visited the Schwarzenegger home, maintained relationship with Mildred while paying her salary, and deceived Maria daily about the situation. How did he do it? The same skills that made him successful: ability to separate identities, to perform confidence while hiding uncertainty, to compartmentalize conflicting realities. Arnold had trained his entire life to control his presentation, to show only what he wanted people to see. But the secret's existence poisoned the marriage even before Maria discovered it. Arnold's emotional distance wasn't just personality, it was necessity. Getting too close to Maria risked revelation. Maintaining intimacy while hiding such fundamental deception was impossible. So Arnold kept Maria at arm's length emotionally, which Maria interpreted as his natural limits rather than strategic self-protection. She adjusted expectations downward, accepting that Arnold was simply not capable of deep emotional connection. The tragedy: Maria was right that Arnold was emotionally limited. But she didn't know those limitations were partially constructed to maintain lie rather than just inherent personality. The discovery. The exact timeline of Maria's discovery remains private, but reports suggest she learned the truth in 2011, shortly after Arnold left the governorship. Perhaps Mildred revealed it. Perhaps Maria discovered evidence. Perhaps Joseph's resemblance to Arnold became undeniable as he grew older. However it happened, the revelation was devastating. Not just the affairs can sometimes be forgiven, but the systematic deception over more than a decade. The child raised partly in their own home. The housekeeper who'd been in Maria's employment while betraying her. The daily lies for years. Maria's world collapsed. The marriage she'd defended to skeptical family members. The partnership she'd sacrificed political comfort to maintain. The man she'd chosen over Kennedy dynasty expectations, all revealed as built on profound dishonesty. The Kennedy family's reaction was reportedly subdued publicly, but furious privately. They'd warned Maria. They'd questioned Arnold's character. They'd doubted the marriage's foundation. And they'd been proven right in the most humiliating way possible. Maria filed for divorce, though the legal process would take years to finalize. She moved out of the family home, separated herself from Arnold, both physically and emotionally, began the devastating work of rebuilding identity shattered by betrayal. The aftermath, the separation and eventual divorce, destroyed the Kennedy-Schwarzenegger mythology. The Romeo and Juliet story, love conquering ideological difference, became cautionary tale about fundamental incompatibility. For Maria, the aftermath meant reclaiming her identity. She'd been Arnold's wife for 25 years, subsumed her Kennedy legacy to support his ambitions, adjusted her politics and career to accommodate his needs. Now she had to rediscover who Maria Shriver was independent of Arnold Schwarzenegger. She returned to journalism, wrote books, focused on her children, became advocate for Alzheimer's awareness. Her father, Sergeant, had died from the disease. She rebuilt life centered on her values rather than compromise with Arnold's. For Arnold, the aftermath meant confronting the cost of compartmentalization. He'd maintained secrets successfully for years, but revelation destroyed not just his marriage but his relationship with his children, his public image, his positioning as family man and moral leader. His governorship had ended months earlier. Had he known exposure was coming? Did he time his political exit to minimize damage from scandal he knew was inevitable? The children's perspective, the 4 children from the marriage, Catherine, Christina, Patrick, and Christopher, faced unique trauma. Their parents' divorce wasn't just family dissolution, but public spectacle covered by international media. Their father's secret child wasn't just family secret, but tabloid sensation. Each child processed the betrayal differently. Some maintained relationship with Arnold, choosing complicated connection over complete separation. Others distanced themselves, needing space from the man who'd lied to their mother and, by extension, to them. Joseph Bina, the son from the affair, faced even more complex situation. He'd grown up partly aware of his parentage, but now the world knew. He became living symbol of Arnold's betrayal, subjected to media scrutiny and public judgment for circumstances beyond his control. Arnold's relationship with Joseph remained intact and even strengthened after revelation. They trained together publicly, appeared in photos together, maintained visible father-son connection. For Arnold's other children, this was additional betrayal. Their father appeared more comfortable with the son who reminded him of his worst behavior than with the children from his marriage. The legacy. The Kennedy-Schwarzenegger marriage became case study in fundamental incompatibility, masked by surface compatibility. They'd looked perfect together, glamorous, successful, bridging cultural and political divides. But beneath the surface, core values never truly aligned. Maria had hoped love would transform Arnold. Arnold had hoped achievement would satisfy Maria. Both were wrong. The marriage proved that charisma and chemistry couldn't overcome structural incompatibility. That political differences reflect deeper value conflicts. That you can't compartmentalize yourself indefinitely without the walls collapsing eventually. It also proved something about Arnold's character, his greatest strengths focus, compartmentalization, ability to perform confidence, were also his greatest weaknesses in intimate relationships. The skills that built his empire destroyed his family. The present today, Arnold and Maria maintain civil relationship for their children's sake. The divorce was finally finalized in 2021, 10 years after separation. They appear together at family events, present united front for children and grandchildren. But the intimacy is gone, replaced by polite distance. Maria has rebuilt life independent of Arnold. Arnold has faced consequences of his choices, relationships damaged, trust destroyed, legacy complicated. The question that haunts the marriage's history: was it ever really a partnership? Or was it always strategic alliance that both parties mistook for love? Arnold got Kennedy credibility, establishment positioning, intelligent partner who elevated his cultural status. Maria got rebellion against family expectations, escape from Kennedy dynasty pressure, partnership with someone spectacularly successful. Both got something they needed. Neither got what they wanted: genuine emotional connection, partnership built on compatible values, sustainable intimacy. The Kennedy-Schwarzenegger marriage was an ambitious project, doomed by the same qualities that made both partners successful: their willingness to prioritize achievement over authenticity, their ability to perform commitment while withholding vulnerability, their belief that willpower could overcome fundamental incompatibility. It couldn't. And when the performance finally collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions, two worlds that had collided so dramatically in 1977 separated with equal drama in 2011, proving that some divides are bridged only temporarily, never permanently.